I was having coffee with a friend and he was telling me about the argument he had with his partner. You see, relationships are like mirrors in which you can see yourself as you really are, not as you wish to be. And a good relationship is usually defined by how well you can manage the conflicts that emerge. Conflict with other people is an inevitable part of life. After all, we're all unique people with different opinions, different needs and views that do not always match up. Even though conflict is unavoidable, it is in itself conflictual. Wait a minute, conflict is conflictual? So what does that mean? What I mean by this is that conflict is neither good nor bad in and of itself. It all depends on how it is handled. The Gottman Institute, which is an institute researching relationships, says that 96% of the time you can tell how a conversation will go from the first 3 minutes. I would add that sometimes you can tell even by a look. So the point here is to remember that how a conversation about an issue within a relationship starts has a big effect on how the whole relationship evolves throughout time. If you do not want to resolve conflict in your relationships and you want to continue with the same issues deteriorating your relationship, then there's no point in watching this video. If on the other hand you want to build trust, commitment and a supportive environment within your relationships, then this video is for you. In today's video, I'll share with you a framework you can use to resolve conflict in your relationships. This framework will allow you to face with responsibility and sincerity the real problem of the conflict. That way, the person with whom you're having the conflict with won't have a reason to question your motives and will be attentive to what you have to say. So a good way to start a dialogue about a conflict is always with a soft start. That way the conflict becomes non-confrontational. When conflict is handled in a non-confrontational way, it can help you improve communication with the other person. It can help you solve problems and give you a chance to express yourself. It can also help you show the other person how to express themselves and help both of you get better at working together. This framework of resolving conflict is about complaining but without pointing fingers, and it encourages using language and facial expressions that show respect for the person you have in front of you instead of judging them and blaming them. It lowers the tension, it minimizes communication that can hurt feelings and protects you and the other person from feeling attacked or defensive, and probably gets the other person to act the same way. So here's the golden rule. How a conversation about a disagreement starts affects how the whole thing goes. Just imagine for a moment that someone comes up to you with a complaint. If they do not blame you or criticize what you did, you are more likely to stay calm and listen to what they have to say without getting angry or feeling like you need to defend yourself. So there are two ways to think about how a conflict begins, strongly or gently. Let's first talk about the strong start. When someone brings up a problem and uses criticism and blame to make their point, this is called a strong start. This way of talking about problems can be very bad for any relationship, whether it is with your partner, with your co-worker, with your friends, or with your family. A strong start is when we use words like you, always, never. Now let's talk about the gentle start. A gentle start is a way to approach conflicts in a way that makes the other person more likely to listen to you. Gentle starts aim to use an I statement instead of you. They aim to avoid criticism and blame by explaining your concerns and describing what you need while being respectful. So let's jump into it. I have my notebook here and we can start with step 1. Step 1. Know the difference between strong and gentle starts. Even though conflict is a normal part of life, how we choose to deal with it affects how the conversation goes, but it also affects how the relationship grows. If you criticize or judge someone, you will probably get back frustration and defensiveness. A strong beginning can feel like an attack on someone's personality. For example, you always have time for others but not for your home, or you never get anything done around here. To handle and solve conflicts with your partner, with your children, parents, friends, or co-workers, you need to start conversation in a way that isn't so aggressive. A gentle start lets you talk about your worries and needs without putting all the burden on the other person. This makes it more likely that they will listen to you because you're not accusing them, you're not judging them, you're not being negative with your words or your tone. So if we take the same example as before, instead of saying you always have time for others but not for your home, you could say, I'd like to sit down with you and talk about how we can spend more time together. In the other example we said, you never get anything done around here. And you can say something like, I really like it when we work as a team to do the house chores. So here are the top tips for gentle starts. It's fine to complain, but it's not okay to criticize or blame. If you start your sentence with you instead of I, the other person is more likely to get upset and raise their guard. Instead, try starting your sentence with I. Don't use words like always and never because they can be seen as attacks on the character of the other person. One thing that you need to be aware here is that countless studies have shown that we judge others by blaming their character, while we judge ourselves by blaming the circumstances. And if there's one thing that I want you to remember from this video, then this is it. So for example, if someone else is not doing the work we want them to do, we're going to think that they are lazy, which is judging on the character. While if we do not do the work we're supposed to do, it will be because that day we had a headache or because we didn't have the right tools. So there's always an excuse. It's always based on the circumstances. That's an unconscious bias you need to have in mind before jumping to conclusions about the other person. Don't blame their character. Ask them about the circumstances. In other words, what is happening and why you have the problem you have with a person should be described using facts rather than judgments and criticisms. Make sure you communicate your needs no matter how vulnerable this makes you feel. It's a different thing to say, I have the need to feel close to you, than say, why do you always spend more time at work, or why do you always spend time with others and not with me? Now, step number 2. In this step, you will think for a moment about a conflict you had in the past. This could be, for example, with a co-worker or a family member or your spouse. Use the space below to explain what happened, what was said, and how the argument turned out. And now it's time for step 3, coming up with a gentle alternative. Now that you have revised the conflict from the past, try to think about how you could have talked to the person in a kinder, less argumentative way. When making a gentle start, the following diagram is helpful. I feel, and it's important to say I feel XYZ and not you make me feel XYZ, because the other person's actions or words are not making you feel anything. What I mean by that is that it's your interpretation of their actions and words that is making you feel X, Y, and Z. And it is helpful to know that your responsibility to yourself is to be aware and understand of how your past is affecting your present. So don't put the responsibility of your emotions to the other person. Back to our framework. We start with I feel, and this is where you describe how you feel, when, and here you describe the situation with as many facts as you can and by not blaming. And I need, and this is where you explain what you need so that things become better for you individually and also for you as a team. So let's see some examples now. A hard start would be, you never talk to me about how your day went. The gentle alternative would be, I feel neglected when we do not connect after work and I need to feel close to you. Another example of a hard start would be, you're so selfish, we always do what you want. The gentle alternative would be, I feel upset when I don't get to do the things I enjoy to do. I would love for us to go swimming together. How do you feel about that? The last example could be something like this. You're out of your mind spending all that money. How irresponsible can you be? The gentle alternative would be, I'm worried about our financial situation and I would really like for us to save some money for our upcoming trip. What do you think? So now that we've finished with step number 3, let's move to step number 4, which is self-reflection. So how did it feel for you to do this exercise? What do you know now that you didn't know before about yourself and about how you deal with conflict? How has this framework changed the way you think about how to handle a possible conflict? Drop me a line in the comments below and let me know how you found this exercise. I'll be really glad to see how this worked for you. If you like this video, hit the like button. It's a small thing you can do that means a lot to me and to the future of this channel. Till next time, be gentle, my friend.